Hi, welcome to Traveling with the Taylors. I'm Alan, and along with my wife Claire, we travel the country in our teardrop trailer. If this is the first time you visited our channel, welcome. If you visited before, you may have noticed a name change. It used to be Taylor's Travels, but we changed the name to avoid confusion with other YouTube channels. Like many of you, last year we were affected by the COVID epidemic and couldn't travel as much as we'd like. But we did make one significant trip, and that was to Yellowstone National Park. So this is the story of our trip from Tennessee to Yellowstone and back. Due to her work schedule, Claire could not make the entire road trip to Yellowstone. She was to fly out to Bozeman, Montana to meet me. My goal was to drive about 350 miles each day and be in camp around 3:30. First stop was St. Charles, Missouri, where I stayed at Sundermeyer RV Park. The staff was very friendly and the site was sufficient for a quick overnight stay. From St. Charles, I headed to my first Harvest Host experience, the Kimmel Apple Orchard and Winery in Nebraska City, Nebraska. The orchard features a great store with wine, apple butter, and many other locally produced products. I was the only Harvest Host customer there. It was Sunday, and the staff was not totally familiar with Harvest Host, but they were very welcoming. The next day, I traveled to Mitchell, South Dakota, where I stayed at a KOA. Any stop in Mitchell should include a trip to the Mitchell Corn Palace. The building is decorated each year with art that is made from ears of corn. It is very unique and well worth seeing. Along the way, I stopped at a rest stop in Chamberlain, South Dakota, and was surprised to find a wonderful memorial to the American Indian woman. It's called Dignity, and if you're traveling on I-90 near Chamberlain, South Dakota, it's a must-see. No stop in this part of South Dakota would be complete without a stop at Wall Drug in Wall, South Dakota. Legend has it that they lured tourists by offering free ice water. They still do. But it's part store, part tourist attraction. Everyone in that area should visit it at least once. Next stop was Sturgis RV Park in Sturgis, South Dakota. I was there only a few weeks after the big Sturgis motorcycle rally. Because many attending the rally had tested positive for COVID, I limited my exposure to others there. I decided to make an unplanned side trip to Devil's Tower in Wyoming. If you've seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you've seen Devil's Tower. It's a fascinating place. I enjoyed the hike around it and watching the prairie dogs in the park. On to Billings, Montana for another RV park stay, and then to Bozeman, where I was to meet up with Claire. While in Bozeman, some locals recommended a great site for a day hike. We enjoyed the town of Bozeman with its many stores and restaurants, and while we were there, wildfires were a problem. We saw one very close to town. Finally, we made it to Canyon Campground in Yellowstone. Shortly after arrival, it began snowing. The next morning, it was 12 degrees. However, we were warm and toasty inside the tab. We spent a week at Yellowstone, hiking and enjoying the wildlife and the natural scenery, including the many geysers and other geological features. When we left Yellowstone, we traveled to a KOA near Mount Rushmore. With COVID restrictions in place, the visitor center wasn't open, but Mount Rushmore is still an amazing sight. Just as interesting is the Crazy Horse Memorial. This memorial has been under construction for more than 70 years, and while work continues on it, many question whether it will ever be completed. It is funded solely by donations and admission fees. Also at the memorial is a museum to the American Indian. After the Mount Rushmore KOA, we drove to Custer State Park, where we saw bighorn sheep, and Claire fed carrots to the wild burros that have learned to approach tourists. Sadly, it was time for Claire to return to Tennessee. My next stop was Badlands National Park. When I stopped at the first overlook, I pulled in next to two other tabs. One was brand new, and the other a little older than ours. We enjoyed comparing notes on our campers. I've described Badlands as like driving across another planet. Fascinating to see the rock formations and spires that cover the landscape. When leaving Badlands, I discovered the National Park Service's Minuteman Missile Visitor Center. This center focuses on the lives of those who manned the Minuteman missile silos scattered around the area. Also featured were exhibits on the Cold War, including efforts to train children to duck and cover in the event of an attack, and the popularity of fallout shelters at the time. But now it was time to head home. If you've never been to Yellowstone, I cannot encourage you enough to make the trip. It was the road trip of a lifetime for me, and I would do it again tomorrow. If you've liked this story and would like to see more like it, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to click on the bell so you'll be notified when we upload other stories. In the meantime, thank you for watching.